Alright, today's topic is harmless and funny pranks that you can do just to mess with people and have a giggle. So I grew up in a very trolly family, and I know lots of adults trolled me as a kid, and I remember some of the ways they did it. One of the things that they did is they would always mispronounce words, phrases, names of objects. For instance, I liked Pokemon as a kid. I mean, who didn't like Pokemon, right? But they would always mispronounce the word Pokemon and call it Pokemon or Pokemon or Pokemon. You know, like they would just always try to say it wrong. But also, adults would also try to like tell embarrassing stories that may or may not have happened around other people my age, or around girls, or at family events, or just randomly out in public, okay? So there's many ways that you can adapt this to your own trolling. Just simply find out what they're interested in, and when you talk about it, always mispronounce the word or phrase. Now, there's another one I witnessed, and it involved a roommate, and what he would do is he would always somewhat refill a ketchup bottle in their refrigerator. So when the ketchup would get real low, he would mash a bunch of ketchup packets to kind of fill it up a little bit. And then after about a year and a half, the other roommate noticed that the ketchup just never ran out. They never had to buy more ketchup. It was just like it was a forever bottle of ketchup. And, you know, after the year was over and the guy moved out, he broke the news that he was refilling it little by little, and they all had a good, nice, fun laugh. And the idea came from a Bible story of a woman whose jar of olive oil never ran out. I didn't even know they had olive oil back then, but apparently they do. And so, you know, they were always selling the olive oil to make ends meet, and it never ran out, but it was probably just a neighbor that was playing a prank. So I was once in a Discord in a clan with a bunch of military dudes, and they would always do this fun thing whenever they would use the military phonetic alphabet, right? You know, A as in alpha, G as in golf, and then they would be like Q as in cucumber, and it's like, well, cucumber starts with a C. It's like, oh no, that's a sea cucumber. I don't mean that one. And like they would stream their Discord calls to tech support, or they would be at work on Discord and they would call like tech support for whatever it is they're doing, and they would do it every time, and it would just piss off the other person on the other end so much. Now, here's one that I witnessed at a public library. Is what happened was someone was like, because the way it works is you sign on to like a private session, and so what the person did was, when they went to the bathroom, their friend went over and did a whole bunch of like Amazon searches for a bunch of products that they hated. And so as they were like doing their research paper, they kept getting ads for things that they did not like, and it just drove them nuts. So here's a fun one too. Like, imagine that, like, you know how you go out for fast food, or you go out for a drink, or to the gas station or something, and you're like, hey, you want me to bring back anything? So what you do is you tell someone, hey, I'm going to the bathroom, can I get you anything? Now here's a prank that I tried, but I was unsuccessful in doing it, okay? So back when I worked in retail, I put a sign on the printer, all over the printer, that said it was voice activated, and then I disabled the touch screen on it so that people would, you know, scream or yell at the machine to do its copies or to do its prints. But everyone just kind of either ignored the sign or didn't read it. I worked with a lot of technologically inept people who were just really stupid with the things, and they couldn't even use the printer most of the time anyway. They were just really below the bell curve when it came to technology. But I also know someone who did this too, and it's kind of a similar thing. Is what they did is they went to like Amazon and they bought these fake medical grade looking stickers that said for rectal use only, and they just put it on everything. They would put it on like a clipboard or a hammer. They'd put it on like a big, you know, pencil or a computer monitor, a mouse pad. And people were getting pissed. Now, there's one prank that a coworker told me about. When he was in college, he had a dorm mate, and he noticed that his dorm mate was like super tidy, super spiffy clean, always was like mega organized. Now, I personally am too, but this isn't about me. Anyway, so what he did was he got a bunch of paper clips, and he would just leave them randomly in the randomest places all the time. So he would like leave them in between books, you know, on the person's like keyboard, computer and stuff, just like itty bitty little paper clips. And like he got real methodic with it. Like whenever the batteries would run out on their television remote, he would like put a paper clip in there, and so when the guy went to change the batteries, the paper clip would fall out, and it just drove him crazy. And he went really far into it. Like his roommate would be like, hey, I gotta go to the library and check out this book, I'll be back later. And then he would get busy and like maybe cook dinner first, and then the friend would go out, go to the book at the library, put a bunch of paper clips in it, and then when his roommate would rent the book and get home and then open the book to read it, paper clips would fall out, and he would just scream. And here's a couple fun ones to do to strangers. I've had people do this to me when I was out in public before. Someone just walks up to you and just hands you a random object without talking to you, without any kind of acknowledgement, and then they just walk away and ignore you. It's so funny. Like, I had a random person, he like bought something out of, you know, one of those like little coin machines where it's like a little plastic ball with a toy inside? Little, you know, quarter, 50-cent little toy, right? Well, he just walked up to me and just gave me this bouncy ball out of one of those, and he just walked away, and I was like, oh cool, thanks. And, like, I guess the dude, like, made a habit of it, because, like, a week later, he'd walk up to me and give me one of those weird sticky hand things that you, like, it's like a stretchy plastic sticky hand finger thing, and you know, use it to, like slap it against the wall and it'll stick to it and stuff. I don't know what they're called, but I would just get random little gifts, and I was like, okay, sure, whatever, man. Another one that people have done to me before is they'll walk up to me, like, super concerned, and what they'll do is they'll point kind of at the ground and behind me, and then when I turn around to look and see what they're pointing at, they just walk away like they never interacted with me at all. So I look behind me like, what's he pointing at? And then I turn back around to, you know, look at what the person's pointing at, and they're just walking away like it's whatever, like they never did it in the first place. Now this one's more for social media, like I guess Facebook, but if there's like 4 people in a photo, say something like, the 3 of you look great, and don't explain. Alright, so here's another interesting one that you can kind of do until someone catches on. And, you know, if I notice someone's doing this to me, I'll play along and just stretch it out as long as possible. And it's a variant of the, a little kid asking their parent why. But this one is, anytime you're having a conversation with someone and you decide to pull this trick, just ask them the last word that they say in question form. So, for example, it's like, hey, me and Paul are gonna go get some pizza. And then you're like, pizza? And it's like, yeah, you know, the one down on the main street. And then you're like, Main Street? Yeah, over near, you know, the arcade with the big statue. And you're like, big statue? Yeah, you know, the one of, like, the mayor and stuff that's on the side of the road? Side of the road? And they're like, oh, come on. Like, they'll eventually catch on that you're doing, but it's funny as heck. Also, a similar technique is, like, if you're at work, you could walk into a room with your coworkers and then say one of their names in a very concerning, questioning way, like, hey, Joe? And then when they're like, yeah? You'd be like, just nothing, just saying hey. Alright, so here's one that I did a long time ago in retail, it was I think it was April 1st, and I had to work that day, and I always ask for that day off, but I had to work, and what I did was, on every mouse in the office, I put some black masking tape over the laser part, and like I said, my coworkers are amazingly technology inept, right? And if you looked under the mouse pad, you didn't know there was a laser there. It was like very hard to see. Very tiny little piece of black tape. And what happened was they had to call IT, and IT came out, and you know, they inspected the mouse itself, and they're like, oh yeah, there's a piece of tape over here, and they removed the tape. And that dude had to drive 40 minutes from wherever he was at to do that, and I felt kind of bad. I never let them know I did it, but I don't work there anymore, so if any of them are listening, they know it was me. Now, I've heard of a similar story that involves mouses at work, and what you do is you bring a wireless mouse to work, and you plug it into the computer of the person you want to mess with, and then like just have it in your pocket or whatever, and you just occasionally move it around, and then they'll think that their mouse is bugging out. It drives them crazy. So here's a prank someone did to me on one of my older YouTube channels, is they would mail me a red tennis ball once a week. Every week I would just get a special delivery package, and I would open it, and it was a red tennis ball. I was like, what is this? And then eventually I complained about it on one of my videos, and what they did was they mailed me a green tennis ball, and then they stopped mailing after that. I guess they got bored or something. Once they got their reaction, they were done. Now here's something that I used to do kind of when I was younger, right? If you're walking with people, you're hanging out with people, and you're going down like a street or an alleyway, what happens is you walk a little bit ahead of them, and you turn the corner, and then what you do is you just sprint as hard and as silently as possible, and then you stop before you figure that they round the corner, so that you're just like way ahead of them, because the second you lose line of sight with them, you just bolt it, and then when they turn their corner, like, whoa, how'd you get so far ahead so fast? And then you have to like hold in the fact that you might be out of breath from the sprinting. Okay, so if you're a person that goes to parties, which I'm not, I think I've been to like maybe 2 or 3 in my life. They were pro gamer parties I was obligated to go to. Maybe I'll release the videos one day. Well, it's gonna be kind of hard. They're on an old computer that's just wasting away in a closet. But anyway, so one fun thing to do is when you go to parties, you just leave a random object somewhere, and it's theirs now, just like maybe a toy, maybe a figurine, you know, just something completely random that they know that they don't own. You just leave it around. And on the flip side, this is another thing too, because this one guy was always hosting these pro gamer get-togethers, and what he did, or what his, like, it was a very rich family, and so what he did was, in the bathrooms, you know, they had medicine cabinets, and he would fill the medicine cabinets with ping pong balls. And every time someone would go to the bathroom, and you would just hear the ping pong balls spill out all over the floor everywhere, and you know that, oh, that guy was snooping, that guy was looking where he shouldn't be. And then, you know, just booby trap other things where people shouldn't go, like maybe a closet or something. Just you open the door and just ping pong balls just fly out everywhere. But I always thought it was really gross because they would play like beer pong with the ping pong balls that touched the bathroom floor, and I think that was just really nasty. But I don't drink, I didn't play the game, so it wasn't my problem. Oh, okay, so there was this one prank I saw on YouTube, right, and it was about 4 or 5 years ago, from a dude in Ireland, and him and his friends, what he would do is he would go to a busy intersection with a crosswalk, and he would walk, like, really close to the cars, and then he would, like, pretend to step over something in the road. So, and when him and all his friends were doing it, because they wouldn't, like, hang out with each other, they would do it individually during the crossing of the walk. And then what happens is the driver has to get out of their car to inspect the road to make sure they're not running over anything, because they're doing it close to the car, so the person that's driving can't see, you know, through their hood. They can't see, you know, where their bumper is. But it's hilarious as hell because they always get so pissed. Another fun one to do is the old food disguise trick. You can take some sort of white candy, put it in a pill bottle, and just start eating them in front of people. You know, like fill a mayonnaise jar with pudding. Alright, so here's a prank that a lot of people say is funny, but it doesn't really work, unless you work in a really big place, I guess, because I worked in retail with a couple hundred employees, and people would call into it and then pretend like they're calling in sick, and they wouldn't know any of the employees' names, so they would give a random name, and then no one was actually named to that worked there. And, you know, if I don't recognize their voice, and I was a kind of manager that talked to all the employees, so I knew how everyone sounded. And, yeah, that doesn't work. Oh, hey, Jake, you're calling in today? Aw, that's a shame. There's no Jakes that work here. Here's one you can do to your coworkers. If there's, like, any kind of list of, like, say, employees, like a timesheet or a schedule or something, just highlight a random name on it, and just that person, if they look at it, they're gonna be like, why is my name highlighted but no one else's? It'll drive them crazy. People did this to me when I was still new at retail, and now that I know about it, it's pretty funny, but at the time it was really nerve-wracking. It's like, what did I do wrong? Okay, another prank that doesn't really work, at least not in anyone I've ever tried it on, is the whole move their stuff 2 inches in one direction every, like, other day or so prank, right? So, as a manager at retail, I've worked at maybe, like, 6 or 7 different stores in my time as manager. Before that, supervisor, plenty of other stores I've worked at, but I would always go to the secretary's desk, and, like, late at night or something if I'm closing, and I would just move everything, assuming it wasn't on camera. If it was on camera, the whole thing would be off. I wouldn't bother with it, but a lot of the stores didn't have cameras in the manager's offices anyway, because managers don't like to be watched on camera. But I would take, like, you know, their mouse pad, the monitor, the computer, just any little personal thing that they had, maybe like a tray of paper clips, move everything 2 inches to the left, to the point where their stuff is basically on the entire other side of their desk. And every single one of them just assumed it was like a cleaning crew at night that was doing it, like picking up, like say picking up the monitor and wiping under it and then setting it back down, and that at some point, based on how they cleaned, that, you know, that's just how it was set back down. And none of them ever got upset. It never got, you know, it never rustled anyone's jimmies. It was just simply like they weren't even realizing they were being pranked. I once did a prank at a retail store that was undergoing a reconstruction that I will never see the payout for, and might not possibly, no one might ever even get pranked, but it's still worth doing, and I'm going to tell you all about it, okay? So, this is a store where the entire interior was basically gutted, like the drywall, the walls, the foundations, all of it was basically updated and replaced, as if it was a whole new building, but without deconstructing the building. Basically, they did just enough to keep the store open, but replacing all the walls and interiors and just everything, almost, just about, sort of, right? And so what I would do is, because I worked super late at night, sometimes even overnight, is I took a bunch of pharmacy pamphlets that always had these stock model images of smiling people, like thousands of them, right? Because at the time I was in charge of signage and pricing, and so I had thousands and thousands of these like pamphlets that were never going to be used and just thrown away. And the way I worked is I was able to work ahead so much at my job that I could maybe spend 10 to 20 minutes on an 8 to 12 hour shift and be done with all my work. So I basically had 10 to 12 hours of doing nothing. So I would spend that time doing some arts and crafts. I would cut out all the faces of these stock models from these little pamphlets, and I would tape them or hide them within the walls of the construction, like just randomly in the infrastructure. And so at this one specific retail building, there is literally thousands and thousands of this one person's face just cut out all in the walls, in the ceilings, in the foundation, taped on the ground, like all these little areas where the construction crew is not gonna have to, it's not gonna mess up with anything. But if, like, say, like, you know, someone decides to deconstruct the building late into the future, they're gonna find all of these creepy faces taped to everything, and they're not gonna know what the hell it is or why it's there. It's gonna freak them out so bad, and it's gonna be hilarious. If there's like a replay feature when we die where we can like spectate the earth after we're dead, I'm gonna go to that. I'm gonna haunt that building until it gets like condemned and they have to bulldoze it over, and just see the look on everyone's face when they see thousands of these creepy smiling dude head, like just the head, not the body, not the pamphlet itself, it's just the face. I spent so much time on that, and man, like, it would be so funny to just like go to that store, punch a hole in the wall, and then pull out like a fistful of these creepy smiling faces. I also wrote a bunch of letters like in time capsule form for like the future people to find, just random little journal entries of like, you know, day 21, here I am changing the price of eggs or something. Oh, there is so much hidden stuff in the walls. Alright, this next one, it's kind of mean, but I saw this on a British comedy sketch a long time ago, and I've only ever been able to do it a few times. But basically, if, like me, I live in an area where English is not the primary language, and so like people might come up to me because of how I look, and they're like, oh hey, do you speak English? And the prank is that you speak to them in perfect English or whatever your language may be, but you just inform them that you don't speak English at all, you don't know any of the words, you wish you paid more attention in school and stuff like that. But you don't say it like you don't know the language. You speak it perfectly, okay? Like someone walks up to me like, "Oh, excuse me, do you speak English?" I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, I don't speak any English at all. I wish I did because it's a fun language, but I'm terribly sorry." And they're like, what? Can you tell me where the closest gas station is? And I'm like, well, I wish I could, but unfortunately I don't speak English, so I'm not entirely sure what you're saying at all. Sorry. And then they may try to speak to you in German or Spanish or something, and then if you speak that, you can keep the gag going by saying, "Oh no, sorry, no habla español," or Nine Dutch. And, you could eventually break it to them that you do speak the language and help them out if you want, or, just see how long it goes until they kind of get that you're messing with them. Alright, so I knew a guy that worked at a game store, and he would always do stuff with his car all the time, like just constant pranks. And one thing that he did was he glued a coffee cup to the top of his car, and he drove around town with it with his window down, and people would be like, "Hey, there's a coffee cup, and you forgot your coffee," right? Like someone that's like put something on the top of their car, and they get in their car and they forget it's there. That's the kind of the idea. But then he would just look and wave at them and smile and nod his head, like, "Yeah," and then he'd drive off. Alright, this next one's pretty funny, right? So, what happens is, like, back when I had friends, I would hang out at their apartment and stuff, and I would take note of what brand of bread they would have, right? So, one time, I went to the store and I bought that brand of bread, an entire loaf of it, like $1, because they used the cheap stuff, because we were all poor. Still poor, by the way. Anyway, and I would toast the entire bag of bread, and then I would bag it back up, just as I had taken it out, and then I would set it like that. I would bring it over when they weren't noticing, and then I would put it next to a windowsill, and then because they were always partying, always drunk or high or whatever, and then they would wake up the next morning or day or afternoon, whenever they would wake up, and then they would notice the bread. They'd be like, "Oh man, who left the bread out?" And then they would go to the bread. It's stiff as hell and it's all toasted. And they're like, "What the hell happened to this bread?" It's like, "Oh yeah, the sun toasted it. You left it near the window." Even though it would be like nighttime and they would wake up in the morning, and yeah, just fun times. All right, here's a little cashier prank for you for those that work in retail, right? Say two girls walk in and they're buying alcohol or cigarettes, right? And you're supposed to ID them or whatever, and assuming they're old enough looking, you could probably get away with it, assuming it's not a sting or whatever. But what you do is, if one of them is kind of a jerk to you in some way, you ID the one that's nice to you, and then you don't check the ID of the one that's being a jerk to you, and what that'll do is psychologically be like that you think that she's kind of older, and it's going to make her a little upset. Alright, here's something that an angry customer once did to a store that I worked at. They went and bought like a 50-pound bag of wild bird seed, and they would come at like 2 or 3 in the morning and just throw the damn seeds all over the parking lot. And they did this, maybe a few times a week for a month. And what happened was it just attracted so many birds, right? But the interesting thing is, yeah, the bird droppings were annoying, and just having tons of crows and ravens and stuff all on the power lines and the trees nearby, it got a little bit of annoying. But at the same time, bugs went down. Like a lot of people don't realize that like grasshoppers and ants and other things will they'll just jump or invade a store. But with all these birds around, there was no more bug issues, and we actually ended up saving money on pest control for the next couple of months while the lady did it. Though we did have to, have someone clean up the parking lot at least once a week. But hey, pressure washing teams are way cheaper than pest control teams. Oh, I saw this at the gym the other day. I believe I almost forgot. Dude, there was a guy, and what he did was he got one of those massive giant jugs of Hershey's syrup, and he was just chugging it like crazy. Like he would just openly pop the cap, and he was just gulp, 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 gulp. And I heard through the grapevine that it was actually just water inside and not actually chocolate syrup. Like, you could see that it was clearly water, right? And there's like no way that he would be able to drink thick syrup that quickly. But funny prank nonetheless. Kind of the same as the, the pudding in the mayo jar. Okay, well that's all I've got for today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure to push that like button, and I read every single comment. Let me know what kind of pranks I forgot, or if you got any really interesting ones. Remember, only harmless ones will be saying things that'll get you in trouble now. But with that said, I read every single comment, and I make videos every single day on this channel. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's video. And the video game in the background is Albion Online. There's links to that if you're interested. I also cover that game on my channel. Anyway, if you want to support me, click the join button down below to become a channel member. It's $5 a month. It's like subscribing on Twitch, but it's here on YouTube. You get access to private, more personal videos. And if you play the game that I'm showing off in the background, there's some videos that are just too good for the public that'll make you lots of money. And that's where I post all the game-breaking exploits and glitches too. Also, with that said, on the right side of your screen is a video you should absolutely click, chosen by Google just for you. And I will see you in tomorrow's video. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. There's a Discord in the description if you want to play games with me. See you later. Mwah.